Hi, welcome to the Gamesplainer. I'm Jeff the Gamesplainer, and today I'm gamesplaining Brass Birmingham.
Brass Birmingham has just been released. It was kickstarted and got into our hands a couple of weeks back. Last week, if you watch those videos, you will see me talk about Brass Lancashire. Brass Lancashire is based very heavily on the original version. Brass Birmingham is a newer version of the same game. So the core mechanic of both games are the same. It feels the same. If you watch the video, it will look very similar. There are, however, some slight differences. And they make some major differences to the way we play. In fact, those differences make a big difference to how you will use the coal and ore cubes. Major differences that we have. We start with a gap in the coal and ore, so that the first things that are built for coal and ore are actually going to get things taken straight off them onto the bank, if you wish, for a or the external usage. The other thing that's really hard is that on the original version you needed to get to the two arrows to access the coal, which is still the case, but those arrows appeared on some of the cubes, on some of the tiles that you could put onto the board. The only way for you to access that coal is to get to the edges, get to the cities that provide the external income, which suddenly makes it a lot more tricky to get coal for that very first section of I need to spend coal to make this happen. I need to buy coal from that because no one's providing coal. That whole thing, the internal struggle on your mind of how to get there, to how to sell that coal, is really important in this game, really from the outset, because you don't have the ability to just put down an anchor and go after it. The other way, of course, you can get coal is by building on the same place that someone else has already built a coal mine on. The other thing that you've got to be very careful of in this game is the first half of the game, you're only allowed to have one tile in each city. That makes it a little bit more tricky because it means that you can't focus in and have all of your tiles on the one spot and just focus around that one little area. You have to commute, which is a good thing for usage of the board. And I find that once you start using the board, you can't get a real good feel for that. That's a really cool mechanism. Now, that only happens in the first half of the game. When you're into the second half of the game, you can have as many as you like on top of those spots. The other thing that is very different with this is there's a wild card or a set of wild cards, so a wild city and a resource card that you can get. You're going to take 3 cards out of your hand to get those 2 cards into your hand, so costing you a card to get 2 cards and just replacing those cards. But what they do is they allow you to place anything anywhere. Obviously, the resources need to still be within spaces that you control, so you're able to build a coal, for example, only if you actually have one of the cities in the adjoining places with the rail line or with the canal. It's really important then to understand how to use them. When I played a 4-player game of it the other night, I found that no one touched those wildcards. No one found the need to use them. When I've had games to learn this, I have used that a lot, or at least once or twice. I say a lot, at least once or twice in the game. What I found when playing with 4 players is that feels like a non-go, where it's actually a go that releases. If everyone had in their hand stuff that was able to just keep them in that same small area or a couple of areas, that's fine. Or they found that everything was joined together, so they didn't need to do that, that's fine. But it's another action that you can do, that if you're stuck for stuff, that's something to do. The other thing I find really helpful or really interesting with this game is this use of beer. It's really different. So you need to use beer to build pretty much any of the major resource areas or major industries. So if you want to build, say, cotton, you place that in and pay the cost to place that in, but you then need to have access to a beer to turn it over, rather than in the other version of the game where you just had to have access to an anchor or access to water, and you turn both of them over. Now you need access to beer. If you're in the second half of the game, some of those tokens that come out of the beer breweries, they actually come up with 2 beers on them, or two little beer markers, and that's really good. But also, some of the things you're building need the 2. So what I found happening the other night when I was playing with 4 players, there was someone desperately going after the building of the clay mine. That's, once again, it's another new thing in this game. the clay mines, you have to build them. You can't just clear them off your board. But they're worth some mover points. They're kind of like the boats in the original version or in the Lancaster version. In this one, there's the clay burners. So in order to build those clay burners, there's only so many spots on the board, but you are going to score them over and over if you can get them in early enough. The second clay burner needs 2 burners, or the second one that she was building, which is I think it was the third one up, needs 2 beer to build it. So whenever there was beer available, what I was doing was going and using that beer as much as possible. So there was only 1 sitting on the board, so she wasn't able to do anything with it, because I knew that she was kind of really working for that and not really thinking about building beer herself. But look, it's a really interesting little mechanism that you kind of suddenly, okay, I've got all these places that I can build from, but I'm going to need enough beer in those places to be able to build those. And finding that way around it, and then you've got to, if you don't do it within the same turn, you've got to wait for it to go all the way around the board, so you can have everyone working against you as well. All of this comes into, is Birmingham better or worse than Lancaster? Which is really the question at hand. There are 2 versions of the game now. Look, for my money at the table, the best game, the better game out of the 2 was Birmingham, was this version. So watch the other video first, then watch this one, see what you think. There are only realistically, it's only minor tweaks. There's not huge gameplay differences, but those minor tweaks make it for a better game. So if I'm playing with people who haven't played any of these games before and are looking for something a little bit heavier, I'm probably going to go towards Birmingham. I'm still happy to have Lancashire on my shelf. Having the 2 on the shelf, it's very similar to Vinyos. I've got 2 versions of Vinyos in that same box. Sometimes I play the old version, which is the original rules, and it's a little bit more crunchy and thinky, and you've got to kind of focus on what you're doing, and you're not going to be able to do everything you want to do. And sometimes I play the new version, which goes a little bit faster, which enables me to do the stuff I want to do a bit easier. And look, just finding that path between them is really important. And so with Brass, it's the same thing. There are some times I'm going to want to play with the ocean and mess around with that stuff and not really focus too much on using the coal, which I found is a problem on my last play of that one. Or there's sometimes I'll play Birmingham, which is probably more for the newer players or people who have played Brass and the original version and want a new version of it. I'll play it as well. So look, this is going to sit on my shelf for a while. I have really enjoyed playing this and learning this over the last couple of weeks. I think that both versions of this game are really solid, strong, good games. And look, I heavily suggest going out and trying to get yourself a copy of it if you're able to. Okay, look, I think I'll leave it there. Go on and watch my videos to learn the rules, watch my gameplay, see how it plays, and look, enjoy that experience. If you've played it and you've played either version and you want to comment, please comment below. If you have any games that you wish to be Gamesplained, please shoot me an email at thegamesplainer@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at thegamesplainer to see what games I've been playing. Subscribe to my videos to keep up to date with the games that I'm gamesplaining. And until next time, enjoy gaming.